Hey everybody, welcome to another Raspberry Pi Digital Making at Home stream. It's really great to have you all here on this Wednesday afternoon. This is a really great one for me. I love this week's theme. It's my favorite theme to do. I love teaching it at school. I love teaching it to people all over the place. It's physical computing, right? So the idea that you can take code, you can take ones and zeros, things that are on a screen, write some instructions in it, and then give that to a real machine in the real world that does real stuff. Like that for me is the best thing about coding. That's my favorite part, is when we can make machines and get it to do real cool stuff and actuate the real world in some way. And so to talk about that this week, we've got some really cool guests with us. We're super duper lucky to have Estefany from Estefany Explains It All. I'm a big fan of Estefany, and I'm so glad she's on the show. And we've also got Edie this week, who's coming to us from Ireland. She was an entrant in the Coolest Projects this year, and she made one of my favorite projects in Coolest Projects, right? I love the whimsy of it. It's a lot of fun. And I'll have her talk about her project when she comes on. I won't spoil anything like that. So our theme is Let's Get Physical this week. So we're going to be doing something a little different on the stream. Rather than just doing Scratch or something like that, we've got a new kind of setup, and I'm sort of experimenting with it. 2 cameras at once is like a little bit new for me. So be a little patient this week, guys, just in case I get it wrong or the camera ends up pointing at my ceiling or something. But we're working with an Adafruit Circuit Playground Express this week, which is kind of like a microbit. So it's like a little self-contained board that you can attach to a machine, download instructions onto it, and you can take that away, power it up, and have it run other things. So lots of our UK audience will know what the microbit is. Lots of you may have been given one at school if you were lucky enough to receive one. And you can take them and make really cool things in the real world, which, like I say, is my favorite part of coding, be able to make a little machine that does a thing. And so that's what we're going to take you through today. So if you don't have a circuit playground, that's fine. Don't worry about it. The principles still apply to your microbit or anything else you're using. It'll just be a little bit different. So watch along. And then when you go away, use the principles that we're teaching you this week, even if you don't have the exact hardware. Everything will still pretty much work the same. So let's get our guests on, because that's enough for me. Like, we've got this really special guest this week. So Estefany, are you there?
Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm really well, thanks. It's a bit rainy today, but apart from that, I can't complain. It's other one that's pretty good. How about you?
I have no idea because it's so early. I just got up and came here.
Amazing. Have you not had coffee or breakfast or anything yet?
Just coffee, and it's right here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for getting up so early and being with us. It's really cool to have you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
It's absolutely my pleasure. But like, we've got a lot of young people that watch the show, and I know that you're big on telling people to go out and share stuff and do stuff, and that's a big message that we like to push as well. Like, I know watching a lot of your videos, there's sort of, you come from the position of like, I don't know all this stuff, I'm going to go learn a thing and make a thing, and then that's where we go from there, right? Once you've started doing it, that's sort of the best way to get going, is to start and keep moving forward and iterate. How did you get from where you were as a young person who loved tech to where you are today? Like this, like YouTube sensation, loads of people watching, know all the stuff that you do. How did you get there?
Well, I've been doing it for a while. And I really just wanted to do computer science tutorials. So I started with that because I was actually studying for an interview with Google, and I didn't feel like studying. And I figured the only way I know that I actually know something is if I can explain it. So that's how like the whole channel was born. And I started with that, but then I wanted to make a project, like a physical computing project with like a pumpkin and like some motors. And I did it and wanted to share it on YouTube. And that's the first time that I did something like that. I had so much fun that I was like, I need to do this a lot more. And I forgot about that interview and then went on with that. So I really, like, I was so passionate about it. I'm still passionate about it. But like at the beginning, like it was like so exciting. I would wake up super early on a Saturday and Sunday, like during my free time, and just work on a project, film it, and share it, because I really wanted my nieces and nephew to get into this too. So I was starting to just share it on YouTube because of that. So I guess like that's how it started. Yeah. And
Cool.
now we're here.
Now we're here. Yeah, no, that's cool. I mean, I think we have a lot of people that sort of come from a technical background, you know, who watch the show and their kids watch the show and they have that passed on to them. Did you have any of that when you were younger? Did anybody pass technology on to you and that sort of love of it? Or is that your own innate thing?
Yeah, no, nobody in my family is an engineer or a scientist. I'm the first one in my family. And I actually didn't know I wanted to study computer science until much later, or that I was good at math until college really. So yeah, it was like my thing. I started with I wanted to be a rock star and a filmmaker and a fashion designer. And then it was until college that I realized that I really like math. And I also watched the documentary, that Pixar documentary about how Pixar got started and how all the founders were computer scientists. And I was like, that's what I want to do. Oh, a sneeze. Okay, no, it left. Sorry. But yeah, so it was like it was Pixar that led me into knowing what computer science was. I googled it. I read the Wikipedia from back then. It already changed, but I was like, "Wow, that is so cool!" And the rest is history.
That's awesome. And so,
Yeah.
so do you sort of like every day, like what does a day look like for you now? Like as opposed to being a software engineer that would have been a 9 to 5 and sort of going and writing code for other people's toys. What does your day look like now? How is it different? Like,
Oh, it's so different. It's probably more hours than before, and that's only because I lose track of time, and I'm excited. There's always like I'm either working on a project or cleaning my workspace and studio, or I try, and it's like an ongoing learning experience on like, oh, I need to figure out lighting and the sound for videos because I do want to improve on that. Learning how to film, even like I didn't know any of these things, so it's an ongoing experience. So learning how to make videos, making videos, making projects, debugging projects, writing new projects. So it's like a lot of work, plus sharing it on social media. So I'm very active on Instagram, and then so it's like an ongoing sharing and making experience. So it's a busy day.
awesome. But that's your
Yeah.
actual job, right? Like that's what you do every day is your job. Like, and then so I guess the following question for lots of parents who will be watching their kids going, I want to do that is how do you turn that into a job? Like, how is that? How are you sort of self-employed and making that a job and making that work for you?
Well, you don't really make a lot of money on YouTube with just their ads, with AdSense. It's more on the sponsorship deals that you can get. And to me, it was like probably 3 years of doing this part time between doing my software engineering job and then after work doing this. And so because I really wanted this to happen. So it's not as easy as it may sound. It's not like, oh, you try really hard and it happens. Well, I mean, I had to work 2 jobs basically for a while. So until the sponsorships started happening and I was like, okay, I think I can do this now.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. But that's always the way, right? Anything worth having is like takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of work to get there. And then once you've got it, it's like, cool, you worked hard for it. And I think that sense of reward must be huge to say that you're sort of striking out, doing this amazing thing, like improving the lives of lots of people all over the world by doing what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think with YouTube, you have the two sides of the story. You have the people who go viral, and everything happens really fast, and that's like the dream. But those are unicorns. It's like really hard for that to happen. So there's the other YouTubers that they've been doing this like for years, and then it just like finally starts to ramp up.
Yeah. Would you say then that I think like the idea that you want to get into being a YouTuber to get famous is probably not the right way if you want it to be stable in any sort of way? Would you say that's a fair assumption?
I think so. I mean, there's again like the two or several types of YouTubers. I treat it more as a platform where I could share information. Like I said at the beginning, I was like, I just wanted to do computer science tutorials, and I knew that people on YouTube were definitely going to correct me. So I was like, this is a place I know if I got it right. And so in a way, I feel like I am using it for science, where I'm still like, here's some knowledge, correct me.
Yeah, that's cool. And that's a cool way to think about it. I know, because like a lot of young people I know, even me, right, it's daunting to think about putting yourself out there to be wrong and like saying, yeah, it's cool that I was wrong, like I don't mind. How do
Yeah.
you get around that sort of like, have you always been that sort of forthright about cool, being wrong is fine, like that's not a problem?
I think I've only been like that with science, engineering, and math. I feel like it's like very black and white. Either you're right or wrong, or you have a theory or you don't kind of thing. Where anything else that's like more creative, I actually have a lot of self-doubt because I'm not sure. It's very subjective. But when it comes to more like analytical stuff, I'm not afraid to ask questions or be wrong. And because I want to learn, and that's the only way to be
Yeah,
wrong and learn. Yeah.
that's a really important thing to harness, right? Because it's not a thing that we're often like, it's not a thing that comes naturally to people, or it's not a thing that we're often taught at school as well, right? Like the idea that being wrong is the way to be right faster.
That's absolutely right. I thought for many years that I wasn't good at math because I thought I wasn't good at math. That's something I grew up with, where when I learned that it just took some practice and being wrong and asking questions and really being interested about it, that I was like, oh no, it's actually really straightforward. I like math. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really true. And I think like doing that, talking to kids about that at a very early age and making them understand that like being wrong is 100% the way to learn things faster, right? You never learn anything faster than when you make a mistake. And I think all the way back around now, coming to like just make a thing, do the first steps of the thing, work out where it's wrong and make it better next time. That whole ethos of like physical computing and digital making is a thing that I personally love the most. And I think that comes across a lot in your videos. How do you like, is that a natural thing for you? Are you just always like that, or is that a thing that you've harnessed and you've worked out how to make work in your videos particularly? Or is it, do you mean like it's like a,
I'm sorry, what?
is it sort of like a natural thing that you have, that passion? Like, is that just coming across in the camera, or is that a thing that you've had to work at to sort of represent properly?
No, that's me. Yeah, that's sometimes. So, I try to record myself when I'm making something because I want to capture those reactions, or like frustrations. But like it's the real thing. It is a bit hard to do the introduction and the outro of the video because like that's like you have to ramp up that energy in front of the camera. But other than that, when I'm making something or explaining something, I feel like that's the most natural parts. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And we just had a question coming from Osh, and he says he didn't study maths at high school. Can he still be a programmer?
Yes, anyone can learn how to program, but I do think that math is important, or like can help you. Those are the tools that you're going to use for problem solving, which is programming is just problem solving. So the better you get at math, or the more concepts you know, the better you can program. So even if you don't, I mean, like I said, I didn't think I was good at math in high school. So it wasn't until later that I liked it. So it can be anytime.
Yeah. And what's the, well, another question coming through now. It says, what's the best thing you've ever built?
That's rough. I think like every time is like my latest project because that's the one I like the best. But right now, my studio is my latest project. I really enjoy my Jurassic goggles I made for Coolest Projects, which was all 3D printed, and then I just put a Raspberry Pi in it so I could take pictures through one of the lenses. So this was a lot of fun because I had to do a lot of different techniques to get the actual physical goggles, and that was a lot of fun. So this is a good project.
That's cool. That's awesome. What's the project you've made you thought was the steepest learning curve?
That's a good one. I think it's usually the fabrication of objects more than the coding part, or like learning, like integrating sensors and stuff like that, because I think documentation wise, like Raspberry Pi and a lot of sensors, they're really good at documentation, so I can just look it up, figure it out. That, like, to me, that's like, it's all open on the internet, I can just figure it out. But when it comes to, I have an idea, like, oh, I wanted to make a Daft Punk helmet, and I really didn't know how to make a visor for it. So that was one of the hardest things I've done, because I had to build like a machine to vacuum form plastic to make a visor for the Daft Punk helmet that I could wear. So I think that's one of the hardest things I've done. Yeah.
Amazing. There's a lot of steps. Did you go to YouTube to find out how to do any of that sort of stuff? Did you look at other people's YouTube videos?
Yes, but I was really frustrated because everybody, like a lot of people were, oh, I put the plastic in the oven and then I took it out and it was ready. But nobody said the temperature. Nobody said how much time, broil or bake. So I had a lot of questions. So when I put it in my video, I made sure I put the temperature and the time and everything.
Nice one. That's cool. And so that's sort of, how do you choose the project you want to build, and how do you choose something that's not too difficult for you to take on?
That's a good question because I think it's kind of like the opposite. I try to pick something that feels like a challenge. I like a good challenge, something I've never done before. And I'm like, I really want a Daft Punk helmet. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it kind of thing. And I'm going to give myself just 1 month to make it. So it's more of a challenge thing. Sometimes I do like going back to something I've done before. So the Daft Punk helmet was really hard, but then a year later, when I wanted to do something else wearable, I already kind of knew how to do it. And that's when I did the Jurassic goggles, where it's still a lot of time to do, but I kind of knew what I was doing already. So that was like an easier project in a sense.
Have you ever found one that's too difficult for you? Like, have you ever decided that you've been defeated by a project that you were trying to take on, or have you always managed to battle through to the end?
Yes. I think every project is like a roller coaster. So every project at the beginning, I'm so excited about it and I can't wait to start. Or when I'm starting, I'm like, yeah, this is going to be awesome. And then there's a part of, oh, I don't know how to do this part, and get a little bit scared, or I'm like just thinking about it, and I don't know how I'm going to do this. And then like hammering through the problems, being frustrated. And I think there's the time where I have to step away from it. If I'm super stuck, I have to step away from it and then come back with a new mindset. And then after you overcome it, it feels so good. Everything was worth it in the end. So there's a lot of, it's like a relationship with a project. You have the honeymoon stage, then you get scared, but then it was fine, and then you get used to it and it's easy.
Are there any projects that you're still a bit scared of at the moment, sitting on your shelf waiting to come back to?
Right now I'm kind of stuck with one, and it's because it's a lot of woodwork that I don't know what I'm doing. So I need to get back on that one. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we've got another guest coming on who'd love to have a chat with you, I'm sure. And she's in Wicklow in Ireland. Edie, are you there?
Yeah.
How's it going? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good.
And so have you been listening into the sort of stuff that Stephanie's been saying about making projects and doing things? Because you're a big maker of things as well, aren't you? You love to make stuff and do coding. Yeah. Have you got any questions you'd like to have a chat with Stephanie about? No.
Well, I was listening in, and do you think that if you did the Jurassic Park goggles it first and then did the Daft Punk helmet would have like been hard, like easier in the goggles?
I think so, but there was maybe the Jurassic goggles felt easier because I had done the Daft Punk helmet before, because I had to learn how to 3D print to be able to do the Daft Punk helmet. And when I did the Daft Punk helmet, I had to print a lot of smaller parts instead of one big piece. And when I planned the Jurassic goggles, I went and did the entire piece, like just one print. And that's because I felt more confident and knew how to 3D print better. So I wonder if I had done it the other way, I think it would have been easier to do the Daft Punk helmet in, like, maybe instead of so many little pieces, like in half at least, to make the print shorter. So I did print for like 160 hours or something. So, but when it comes to the visor part, I didn't have to do vacuum forming for the Jurassic goggles. So I still feel like that would have been really hard for the Daft Punk helmet.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good question.
Cool.
Yeah. What about you? I saw your project with Legos and a catapult for the candies.
Yeah.
That was so fun. And I was gonna ask you, where at home do you make this stuff?
Well, I don't really have a studio or anything. I just have like lots and lots of Lego in my room.
So cool.
So,
yeah.
A few Christmases ago, I got this set, like a robot set, and I was kind of just like looking at things to do with that. And then when I built the candy catapult, like I kind of fiddled around with it for a bit. I had to add different parts on, and like I really do it all just in my room in like the corner by my window.
That's so nice because I wanted to like you don't have to have the studio to make stuff. For many years, I was making at my kitchen. So, and I would leave the stuff there and get kind of like in trouble for having all my maker stuff in the kitchen and not food. But like, so if you have at least a dedicated space in your room, that's so cool to have that and a bunch of Legos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. And so when you came up with your idea for the candy catapult, like where did that come from? Because like, I love the project. It's really cool. Like, but how did that idea spark in you?
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of looking at he does some YouTube videos, JK Brickworks, and he did one of his projects, like the Candy Catapult, and then I added on a few of my different changes. So I kind of took that project and added on some different parts, and then I changed all the code in it. So it was mostly just from that.
Nice. That's a cool idea. Did you end up getting your extra functionality working? I remember you saying you would like to work on having it shoot specific colors. Did you end up doing any work on that? Did it come through?
Not really, because the machine actually broke just as I heard I was coming on live. So then like I spent all the weeks coming up just building it and building it and building it. So there wasn't really any time. Like it was like only a few weeks before I was going on. So I wouldn't really have been able to do any more changes.
No, that's crazy. Has that ever happened to you, Stephanie? You ever had a project fail at just the wrong time?
All the time. That's like a given. It always happens, especially if you put yourself or you have a deadline. Everything wrong happens right before, or you have to adapt. The goggles had a lot more functionality that I was going to add to it, but I ran out of time, because I was running into a lot of issues with it. So I had to compromise and be like, okay, this is the only thing it's going to do. It's not going to do the other things that I had planned. So there's always that. Yeah.
That's cool. Can we see the Candy Catapult from Raspberry Pi?
Yeah. Here it is.
There it is.
So this is the hopper. So you just put all your sweets in here, and then there's like kind of parts in here so that only one sweet can come in at a time. Then here's the conveyor belt. So the sweets roll in here and come down to the color sensor. And then it brings down the catapult, and then the shuttle thing pushes onto the catapult, and then it fires the sweets.
And have you had it land in your mouth yet?
No.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It actually took a good few tries for doing the video to even get it in my hands.
The video is really good, by the way, so people should watch it. I really liked it. Yeah.
How far does it shoot, Edie? Like, how far will it? Can you get? Like, how can you get it go?
It kind of goes like I'd say about a meter. It sometimes the code or something just like if the sweet got caught or something, then it would slow it down a bit and it wouldn't go as far. But most of the time it's about a meter.
Right. And so what were some of your, like when you were building the project, you said it fell apart just a couple of weeks before and that was unfortunate. But like when you were building the project up to that point, did you have any problems that you needed to overcome when you were making it? Anything that like went wrong?
Yeah, lots. So when I built the machine, like it was quite close to doing the coolest projects, and like I gotten the code right, but the sweet kept on falling off the conveyor belt. So then I added on the walls, but then the sweet would get caught. So I added on the little hopper parts, and like I just had loads of problems where something would go wrong, and then I'd have to fix it with a new piece of the Lego.
Like a true engineer. Good job. That's really good.
That's super cool.
Yeah. I also wanted to add on to what Edie was saying of like watching someone else's project and being inspired by it, because a lot of my projects also come from there. And yeah, that's the way to go. Like you see something and you think, oh, I want to try to do that. And then when you're making it, you're like, oh, but I would have done it this way or that way. And then you modify it so much that, yes, it's so much fun. So good job. Mm-hmm.
That's super cool. I mean, do you do a lot of material sciences, Stephanie, when you sort of like think about projects and like looking at other people's inspirations? Do you sort of say, I would like to change a lot of the materials in it, or do you rather look at the code specifically? Like you're saying that the learning curve is steeper for you on fabrication.
I kind of like to. I don't really look at a lot of those things, but like when I do, sometimes I think that some parts could change. Like another one of J.K. Brickworks, he built this moving statue, but you could like see the stick where the statue could move, and then like I was thinking if you put in a different piece, then you wouldn't actually be able to see like the piece moving, and it would just look like the statue and not like bits sticking in.
Nice. So you adapted the design that you saw in the project initially, then you wanted to make something a little bit different that changed that. Would you change it again next time if you started from scratch? Would you take your design now? Would you like to iterate that design again?
Well, I'm quite happy with the way it came out, but there might be a couple changes. Like maybe if I was doing it again, I could change the like the place that the sensor is, because it doesn't always land here, like if it gets caught or something. So I probably would move it like a bit closer, so maybe put the sensor like up on the conveyor belt. So if it was the right color, it would move it on, and if not, it would just move it backwards and shoot it off the side or something.
Mm-hmm. Getting lots of really nice comments coming through from all over the world at the moment, Edie. People saying how amazing your project is. It's really impressive, kiddo. You've done a really great job. Are there any projects that you would iterate if you started again, Stephanie? If you had one to go back on?
I usually don't like going back. Yeah. I feel like when I'm done, I'm done. I wanted to do so much more with the Daft Punk helmet and the goggles, but then by the time I'm like, I just want to do something new, something else. But yeah, the only time I did was for the Daft Punk helmet, where I added a lot more functionality in the code, because I did put like a whole Linux computer in it. So I was like, I should probably use it more. So I made it so that I could control it with my phone and play music in my head when I was wearing the helmet.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so, Edie, we've got a project today, our environment sensor, that we're going to have a work on in a little minute. Did you have any more questions for Stephanie before we let her go and do some coding?
Not really.
No? Cool. No worries. And Stephanie, the one question we ask everybody before we sort of like send them on the merry way is, do you have any specific advice that you would like to give young people who would like to be where you are right now?
That's a really good question. I feel like, well, when I see someone like Edie, I'm like, you're good. I have nothing to say. You're doing excellent. But for anyone else watching, it's just a bit of the one advice I give myself all the time, and I have to repeat in my head when I get very stuck in a problem or frustrated, is I have to be patient and just know it somewhere in the back of my head that I will figure it out. I will definitely solve this problem. I don't know how right now, but I will. And so I just have to remind myself that I'll do it. I just don't know how right now, but I will. And I think that helps a lot with when you're stuck. So yeah, that's, I guess, my advice. Be patient and you will do it. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for coming on the stream today. It's been really, really great to have you. Like some really nice insights.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a lot of fun and nice to meet you guys. Yeah.
You too. Keep making awesome videos. Like I love watching your videos. And as I was saying before, I think my favorite one is your make stuff and share stuff. Like share your stuff. Like that really inspired me watching that video. So thanks very much for making that sort of stuff.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll catch you later. See you later, Stephanie. And Edie. That was cool. How cool was that to talk to Stephanie about your catapult?
Yeah, that was cool.
It was really cool. Can you show me again? I really want to see the catapult again. Can you like, hold it up nice and close to the camera for me so I can
Sure.
see like the sensor and stuff? That's so cool, kiddo. Such a great little invention.
So like,
Well done. So good. Yeah, that's awesome. And so the one we've made today is a little different, and we used the Circuit Playground Express, didn't we? That little board. I'll just grab one. I've got one off to the side sitting over here. I'll show you my workbench, everybody. I'll just pop that into the feed. There we go. So you can see here I've got my workbench on the table with the little gizmo that I made, and Edie's got her one over there. So I'm gonna talk everybody through the project. We're gonna go through the project with Edie. And this one here, what it does is, I'll just give you a quick demo of it so that we can go through it, is that we've got our Circuit Playground here. Okay, there's our little Circuit Playground board. And when you push the buttons on it, it detects the different things in the room. So light and dark, quiet and loud, and hot and cold is what it's detecting. Cool. So if you want to follow along, everybody, if you've got a Circuit Playground, that's cool. Go grab it and plug it in, and then open up the Adafruit programming window, which is, I'll show you that there. So you're looking here at makecode.adafruit.com. So if you open that up there, it's very much like what you see a Scratch project would look like. We've got the clippable blocks and things. We've got the menus over here, and our virtual Adafruit. Lost my track now, gone playing with my toy. So yeah, we've got our virtual Adafruit board here on the screen, and we can add our blocks and mess around with them here. So Edie, should we get started?
Okay.
Yeah. So what should we do first, do you think? Should we build the machine, or should we do some coding?
The code.
The code first. All right, cool. So the first thing we want to do is open up a new project in Circuit Playground in our Adafruit editor. Fantastic, cool. And we've got our forever block, right? So we always start with a forever block whenever we work with our make code here. And that just means as soon as it comes on. So because we're working with a pluggable board, what happens is you run your code in here, you download it to the board, and as soon as the board switches on, it starts running it. There is no green flag in make code. It's literally as soon as you run the board, the code starts working. So we have our forever loop. So in that, we're going to need some logic. We want to put in an if-else block. So that's the light blue ones. And we'll see what it says, if-else. Yeah. Oh, so that's an if one. We need one with the, there we go. And again, because what we're going to have is, so since we've got three different things, well, if you go back to your code, yeah, that's it. So since we've got three different things, we're going to be measuring the light and the darkness. We're going to be measuring the quiet and the loudness. And we're going to be measuring the cold or the heat. So we want three of those if, else if, else if.
Sure.
And then we want another else. So tap one more. So just tap little plus at the bottom. There we go. Cool. So the first one we'll do is we'll get it to measure the light levels. So what we want to do is we've got a servo connected. So we should be able to add a new servo to it in our list of things. So if you go to extensions, okay, we can add, cool. Cool, and then we can open our servos list, and then you can drag that across. So set the servo angle to, okay. So we want to do a little bit of math now, because we're going to take it, we're going to work out where it's going in order to like find out our light level. We're going to sense that, and then we're going to take that and divide it and times it by some numbers in a bit of a fancy way. So let's get some math blocks out. We need a times, and we need a divide. Yeah, that's it, pop them down. Cool. So inside we need an input. Let's grab our inputs. Cool. And so we need a block that says light level. If you roll down, you'll see a nice little round one there that says light level. You can drag that one across. That's it. So that's the value for our light level. So on the board itself, it's got that light sensor, right? Mm-hmm. And like, so how does that little block there, we've got that little purple block that says light level. Do you know what that is? Like, what does that mean?
It's, so on the Adafruit, there's a light sensor, and it can tell how bright it is. So when you take the light block and put it into one of the math blocks, it can say like, if the light is greater than 150, then do something.
Exactly. Spot on, right? So we can take that value of the light now and we can play with it a bit, and we can make our servo motor move a certain amount around that angle. So what's half a circle? Do you know how many degrees there are in half a circle, Edie?
180.
180, perfect. So what we've got here is, if we're going to use the top half of our servo, because we don't want it to go the full way, we're going to use that 180 degrees. So we're going to get that light level and divide it by the number of light levels there can be and times it by 180 so that we only use half a circle. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So take your light level and plug it into the first hole of your divide block. Into the front one, that's it. And then the other one, so with our light levels on these boards, the values go from 0 to 255. So let's pop in 255 in the second hole of your divide block. Cool. So what we've got now, that little block that says light level divide 255, that will work out what one level of our light level is. So if you plug that into the second part of your times block now, plug the whole thing into there. That's it. Wait for the light up. That's cool. Times. So that first one should be 180. So 180 times the light level divided by 255. Cool. And you can plug that into the top part of your code now. And so what we've got there is we've got our servo, and it will move to a certain number of those degrees, right? So a percentage of the amount of light we're using, we're going to get that to change in our degrees. So the next one, well, how do you want that to happen? Let's add that part first. How do you want that to activate? So on your board, we've got some buttons. What should we do to activate this one? So if what?
If button A clicked.
Yeah, definitely. So if button A is pressed, it's like an angular sort of gem-shaped one. That's it. Plugs in the top. So if we push button A, then our machine is going to check the light level and do our thing. So what would our next one be if we do what? So if we wanted to check the light level, when we want to check the noise, how do we get it to check that?
You need to get the input and then the sound level.
Sound level, fantastic. So you should be able to duplicate that block that we just created. If you right click on it, duplicate the whole green thing. If you duplicate the whole green block, we can use the whole thing again. Yeah, that's it. So click on the green part and say duplicate. That's it. And then what you got to do is pull out light level and put in sound level.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. And then you can stick that one in the second one. And how would you like to activate our sound meter?
On button B.
Yeah, nice one. Plug it in. Cool. Brilliant. We're halfway there. Now, for our third one, we want to measure the temperature, right? We want to measure how warm it is. So how could we do that?
You go into input and you get the temperature.
Yep.
And then we'll duplicate these.
Well done. Cool, and then we can plug that in. That's it, fantastic. So we've got our three different things, and when we push our buttons, well, the third one, we don't have a button C. There isn't a button C on the board. How can we activate our third one?
We can use button A and B.
Nice, cool. Great idea. Buttons A and B. So when we push one, it does one thing. We push the other, it does the other thing. We push both, it does a third thing.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I love it. Awesome. And then so these are for the things that are happening. So when it's checking, it should do this thing. But what should it do when it's not checking?
Stay still.
Stay still and go back to the beginning, right? Since it's going to be like a graph that goes up, we want it to be at the beginning when it starts. So we want it to set servo to 0. So you should be able to go into your servos menu and just drag a set servo A1 to 0, and it should come straight in. There we go. Plug that into our else. Ooh. So just the top one, and we only need to have the number 0 in it this time. We'll change the 90 for 0 and pop it in the else. Cool. So that's pretty much all the code we need, really, but we can make it fancy. What else could we add to it, do you think, from here? What could we add to our code to make it a bit cooler?
Well, I added in, for the first time I did it, a graph in light level.
Awesome. How do you do that?
So you grab the graph block
Yeah.
up here,
Yeah.
and you click the plus. So then for doing the light level, you can get the light, drag it in here, and then we can, if the light is up to 180, then it'll show a graph of that.
Okay. Cool. So the light level goes to 255. The max value of the light is 255, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So is that what you'd put in there? So you'd put 255. So graph it up to 255.
Yeah, you can put up to 255, and then you can put it into the
No, I hate when I do that. I do that all the time.
section.
Right. Okay. So when you push it, it will then light up the lights on top of the board as much as that is.
So like if it's if the light is, let's say, 180, then it would show up half of the lights on the LEDs on the circuit board. And then if it was more or less, it would do a certain amount of the lights.
Right. Okay. Awesome. And so you're going to add that to all three of them then, the graphing part?
Yeah, you can just duplicate the block. And then add it into the top of each one.
That's cool.
And then I'll just change the light level onto the different levels.
Right, make sure you got the right one in the right places. Cool.
There.
Awesome. That's super cool. And then otherwise it will set it to 0. That's great. So we've got all our code. So that's all done. Have you got your machine clipped together?
Yeah, I'll just plug it in.
Cool. So I'll have a look at my one over here, which we can just see on the camera. So I'll pop that in quickly. So for those who are at home, we'll have a look at my one. So you can see that we've got the alligator clips connected up to the different ports on the Adafruit, right? So we've got a ground, the A1, and the voltage, which is running out to that. Okay. And you can see that they then run down some cables and around to the back to the little servo motor, of which I have an example. So this is the little servo. This is what they look like. Just a tiny little motor like this, okay? And it's not like your regular electric motor. It doesn't sort of spin around and around and around. What it does is you can set a specific angle for the motor to run, and that's what it does. Right? So you tell it, I want you to turn to 97 degrees, and that's where it turns to. It's not like a spinning electric motor we would put in a robot or something like that. Cool. So, are you having a bit of trouble connecting up your Adafruit to the computer?
Yeah, I think so. I just clicked download.
Nice. That's a bit meta. We got a tweet from Stephanie coming in about yay programming and math. Cool. It can't find your Circuit Playground Express.
I'll try looking at.
That's all right. Have you tried unplugging it and plugging it again? Because sometimes they do that. They need a bit of a refresh. You just got to dump the power out of them and then refresh them, and it will probably come back. That was a good sound. That was a computer recognizing a thing being plugged in sound.
Okay. Download.
Cool.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it looks like it's doing it. These are all good signs.
Yes, that should be it.
Hey, amazing. Cool.
I'll just switch my camera.
Yeah, go for it. That's awesome.
This is the Adafruit part. So let's test it.
Awesome.
And then I'll bring in my light.
Amazing. That's so cool. Nice. That's awesome.
And then the sound. I found that if you blow on it, it's actually really loud with the sensor.
Well, yeah, right. Just sort of go all the way around. Yeah, that's cool. When you blow on those little cheap microphones, they detect it quite loudly, don't they?
Yeah. And then this is the temperature in the room.
Cool.
And
22
then we'll
degrees
just
Celsius.
go. That looks about right.
Uh-oh. Mine did that earlier. Mine did that as well. Mine did the thing off.
There.
That's awesome. That's so cool. That's great, Edie. Well done. Great bit of work. And so what if you were going to take it and you were going to adapt it for next time? So now that we've made this little gadget, it's pretty cool and it does the cool things we want it to do. Is there anything, like, if we had the time to go away and work on it and make it better, how would we make it better?
Well, we could like try and mess around and see if there's like we could add music on. So like if it was really bright, then it would play a loud noise, and then if it was quiet then it wouldn't do anything.
That's cool. Yeah. We could have it play a tone that had like a sliding volume scale on it. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a cool idea. Yeah. You could have it like, well, we could go even one further, right? So we could have it so that when it was like too hot, we could have it say like a voice message that was like, yeah, it's too hot. It's too hot. Yeah. I mean, we could do all sorts of things with it. It's a really cool little toy, isn't it? I quite enjoyed playing with it. I made a thing the other day, right? So I had the two boys, Zach and Xavier. I don't know if you've seen them on some of the other videos. We went down to the playground. You know those roundabouts that you can like sit on and spin around?
Yeah.
So they like to sit on it, and then I spin them as fast as I can get them to go, right? And they just fling off after a while. And we were trying to build a thing with the circuit playground that would detect how much G-force that they were feeling at any given time as they were spinning around and around it. We put it in their pocket, and it was graphing the
Cool.
G-force. Yeah. And it didn't take much more code than that, right? So like that's right, and that's it. If you come up with a cool idea, like we can make it happen, right? Like candy catapults and stuff like that. That's awesome. That was really cool, kiddo. Thanks for coming on today. It was great to see you, and I hope you keep making awesome stuff and that you stay in touch.
Yeah.
Would you come back on again in the future with us? Would you come and do another live stream?
Definitely.
Amazing. Yeah, that would be really cool. We'd love to have you back, maybe with some more of the cool gizmos you've made or something you've come up with in the past. And if you come up with any cool ideas for stuff that you want us to do, let me know, and we can throw together a project there. That'd be awesome. Sweet.
Just before I go, can I give a shout out to everyone in Glebe and Stephen?
You absolutely can. Yeah, cool. Go for it. Is there anyone else you want to shout out? Your code club or your dojo? Teachers?
Glebe Dojo, Olivia, and Emma, Lily, and Hope.
Nice. Cool. Getting some shout outs. I love it.
And my little sister Ada, who entered Coolest Projects as well.
Nice. That's it. Looking after your little sister. I like to see that. That's really good. Cool. All right. Well, thanks for coming along, Edie, and I'm sure we'll see you doing great things in the future.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. My pleasure. I'll catch you later.
Bye.
Bye. How cool is that, right? So we knocked up a little thing with the Circuit Playground, which is a really cool little board. If you've got a microbit, right, you can do the same things. The principles still exist for you to do exactly the same thing with a very similar amount of code. It's just that the interface is slightly different. Okay, so this video will be online. So if you do end up getting a Circuit Playground or you've got a microbit and you want to work out how to do it, you can go back and watch this video later on anytime. That's totally cool. It was really cool to have Stephanie on today as well. That was like a rare treat to have someone who comes on and has such passion for making things as we do. It's really nice to have her. So we'll see you next week, everybody. Thanks for being with us this week, and keep making awesome stuff. We'll catch you.